So here's the thing about ALS, otherwise known as Lou Gehrig's disease, that I don't think gets covered enough. When you have ALS, your entire body degenerates on you. We all know that. You lose your ability to speak. You can't move any of your extremities. You actually lose control of your bowels. But here's what they don't tell you. It actually doesn't affect your brain. You are as sharp and as cognitive as you ever were. So you literally become a prisoner inside of your own body. There's a fascinating documentary called Gleason that you can watch wherever you watch your movies on demand. And it's about Steve Gleason, a former New Orleans Saint NFL football player who, after retirement, got diagnosed with ALS. And at the same time, found out that his wife was expecting a child. So he began documenting everything. So you begin to watch Steve fight ALS, and now he has a nonprofit charitable organization called Team Gleason. And we're asking you to consider visiting teamgleason.org and making a donation. The Gleason Initiative Foundation helps provide individuals with neuromuscular diseases or injuries with leading-edge technology, equipment, and services, and they're trying to create a global conversation about ALS to ultimately find solutions and an end to the disease. Please visit teamgleason.org and consider making a charitable donation. A new episode of the Felt Recoil podcast starts now.
This is Felt Recoil.
Welcome to the Felt Recoil podcast, episode number 10. Congrats, you made it, and you haven't killed me yet.
Show's not over, buddy.
My name is Chris, and to my right is my good friend.
I'm no longer your hetero life mate.
Sometimes. Hetero life mate, Patrick Hulon. And tonight joining us, I'm actually super excited about this, from TrailblazerSurvival.com, Mr. Tom Weathers. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. You're
going to be probably, and no offense to everybody else, but this is the most intrigued I've been yet to have a guest sit across from us. And I'm going to tell you why.
Because you're usually intrigued by yourself?
I'm very intrigued by myself. That's my narcissism that I inherited from President Barack Obama. But also, if you're a guy, you have these dreams of being the guy that could travel out into the swamp and survive for days on end, right? And you lather yourself up in mud with a bandana and you survive.
That was Predator.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, all right,
we all remember watching Schwarzenegger back up into that mud hill and the Predator didn't see him. We want to be that guy. Tom is actually that guy, which is really cool. At the top and throughout, I'll remind you, Tom has a Bug Out Bootcamp coming up March 3rd through the 5th. Pre-registration has ended, but if you visit TrailblazerSurvival.com and input the code FELTRECOIL, he'll give you $100 off the class right now. TrailblazerSurvivalSchool.com. There's only a few spots left, so hurry. Head over to TrailblazerSurvival.com, and Tom's going to waive $100 off the normal registration fee. I really wish I could do it because, and I will do one, Tom, and I'm not blowing smoke. I will come take one of these classes, probably more than one, because this stuff fascinates me. But we're going to dive in deep, but we have to start the same way we start every time.
Hang on a second.
Yes.
Tom, can I pay you $100 to take Chris in the woods and get him lost?
Well, I'll tell you what. You paid $100. I'll take Chris out there and I'll teach him how not to get lost.
Yes.
I don't know. That's not what I want. I want him to get stuck out there.
Win. I win. Tom, we sent you our 5 questions. 1 question 5 times, we call it. These are pretty straightforward. This is just our way to get to know you right here at the top, okay? So I'm going to ask you 5 questions in sequence. You give me your answers. There's no wrong answer, but we'll dive a little deeper. And then we're going to come back to how you got to where you are, because seriously, very, very fascinating. So you told me you're not much of a gun guy, okay? But I want to modify this. Normally at the outset, and if you want to answer this, you can. We ask, what's the one gun everyone should own? Do you have a preference on the one you think everybody should own?
Well, it really depends on the purpose that you own the gun.
Okay.
You know, my wife would have no reason to own a rifle or a 50 cal.
Right.
There's just no purpose for her to have that. But she does have access to a Smith & Wesson M&P 9mm.
That's right.
So
tried and true,
just for her protection.
Yeah.
But for survival purposes, small game, I would probably go with like a Ruger 10-22. It would, take the takedown.
Yeah.
So that you would have something that's compact when you need it to store it away.
Yep.
But when you're out there trying to get some small game, you've got cheap ammunition and a very accurate gun.
Lightweight and plentiful ammo.
And also comes with its own backpack, usually. If you get the 10-22 breakdowns, then slide into a backpack and off you go. Okay, what is the one book you think everyone should read?
Well, being a survivalist, what actually probably got me into being a survivalist, My Side of the Mountain.
Okay, who's that by?
Oh, I can't think of her name.
Well, that's all right. What's it about?
Well, it's about a young man that decides he wants to go live in the wilderness, and actually does it.
Okay.
And he spends quite a time out in the wilderness until his parents decide that if he won't come back home, they'll go to him.
Huh.
So, and I think she just recently wrote a second volume to it. I haven't.
So is this a novel or is this a true story?
It's a novel.
Okay.
It's a novel.
All right. Let me ask you a question on a similar subject here. That kid from, what's that movie called? Into the Wild?
Into the Wild, yeah.
Is that kid, do you know that story where he goes to Alaska on a whim? He donates all of his money that his parents gave him to like some Hug a Tree foundation, runs off to Alaska and dies in a bus because he ate the wrong thing. Does that kind of stuff irritate you the way it irritates me? Because he's glorified as if he's some sort of hero that, well, he wanted to go hug a polar bear and make the world a better place. But in essence, yeah, it's a nice idea, but he did something he had no clue how to do and it killed him. And this can sound really mean, but I find it hard to have empathy or even sympathy for somebody like that because to me it takes a real lack of astute common sense to say, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the middle of Alaska and I'm going to eat berries and I'm going to live a happy life. Do you feel like it gives you, are you like, man, if that guy could have called me? Anything like that?
Well, I've heard different stories about it. Me and another survivalist, Joshua Hamlin, who is up in Missouri, we're discussing it last time I was with him back in May of last year. And we don't know if that's all the, that's...
Oh, really? Maybe there's a little more to it.
Yeah, there's a little more to it. So we're not really sure. I'm sure he would know the universal way to test, whether a food is edible or not.
Which is?
Well, basically, it takes about 5 days to figure out if something's edible. First, you're going to, break the food down and onto your skin, or to leave whatever you're getting to berry, and kind of push it into the forearm of your skin.
Okay.
Then if you don't break out in a rash or anything there, next time you're going to put it on your lip. Then if you don't break out there, next day you'll put it on your tongue. Next day you'll chew it into a pomace and spit it out. And then
I see.
Then the last day you'll swallow a little bit of it.
Yeah.
If you don't break out or get sick or anything from basically 5 days of testing it out, then the food is okay to eat.
The way I understand it, he actually died of dysentery. I believe that's the way I've heard it, is that he ate something, it gave him dysentery, and then because he was already just famished and dehydrated, it ended up being his death because he was already on the brink, and then that one bad move.
He was on the opposite side of a river.
Yeah.
That the water came up, is my understanding, and he couldn't cross where he had originally come across.
Yeah, he tried to go back.
And allegedly, if he had gone, half mile down the river, there was a narrower crossing that he could have simply waded through and gotten back to help. But he wasn't aware enough of the area he was in. Mm-hmm. It sounds like he didn't move outside of that area where he was camping out. So maybe that had something to do with it too.
There are, if dysentery was the problem, there are things that you can do to stop that.
Yeah.
Just knowing a few basic, eating ash basically will stop you up. Eating charcoal will,
really out of the fire, would you if you had a fire going, you would maybe could you make a tea out of it? Is that crazy, or would you just eating it like paste?
Like paste, eat it in a tea. Just take a little bit of it and
Tom, I'm going to try all these things, right?
You are.
Like when you leave, I'm going outside.
Tonight. He's doing it tonight.
In the bag, I'm going to go dig up the fire pit and make a tea. What's the one movie you think everyone should see?
Well, my favorite movie, I think, is Groundhog Day.
Yes.
Awesome.
What'd you say?
Groundhog Day?
See what I was doing there? I was going to get you to say it over and over again. Okay. I love that movie.
Yeah, I saw it in the 90s when it first came out. Mm-hmm. And I can't get over how the character of it, the character grows in this. He goes from depression to, what's that called? Hedonistic. Where he basically says, well, I can do anything.
Do whatever feels good, yeah.
And then he eventually learns that what really feels best to his soul is helping other people.
Yeah.
And so
I saw a meme on Facebook just a few days ago because it was Groundhog's Day. There were a couple of really funny ones. The one with Hillary, where she saw a shadow, and it said, Hillary saw a shadow, she still won't be president for 4 more years. I thought that was good. But then there was one that said, I think they should announce a Groundhog Day sequel and just re-release the original. And I thought that was kind of brilliant. That would be a good play. All right, you music guy, what's the one album you tell everybody to go buy?
Me? I like Home Free, a cappella group.
Okay.
I just really like it, and I think their album Country Evolution is probably my favorite.
And is that exactly what it sounds like? Kind of a rundown of country music and the way it's evolved from Hank Williams to Brooks and Dunn type stuff.
Yeah, it's got different country songs that different styles, and I mean anything from Elvira's on it to Low Places. So it's
kind of running the spectrum, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, and so finally, and most importantly, I think, what's the one piece of advice you would go back in time and give your 18-year-old self?
I really thought about this question, and I don't know if I would give myself advice at all. I have 3 wonderful children. And
what's that like?
Well, let me put it this
those
way.
hellions of Chris's, I tell you what.
Once they leave home,
much better,
and they have respectable lives, it becomes
Chris is just
great.
Yeah,
he's just waiting for him to be able to mow the grass.
Yeah, that's why we had him.
And then you get in your 50s like me, then they start turning towards their family.
Sure.
And say, hey, Dad, do you need anything?
Yeah.
So it becomes...
It's a big circle,
classy,
huh? Yeah.
So I wouldn't want to do anything to change that.
That's a very, very good answer. I think that's safe to call profound. Yeah, that's good.
Because I would be scared that anything I did would change that, and that would grieve me so much. I just don't think I can take it.
Well, if you're,
I feel like we have to stop.
If you're a future, have aspirations to be a future guest on the Felt Recoil show, just know the bar has been raised.
Harris, if you're listening to this episode, Harris from H Goose Watches is coming in next week. He is a local watchmaker. Buddy, you better study up, man. You better come and drop some knowledge, my friend. That was excellent, and that is very true. We tend to play that game, right? Where sometimes we look back and we go, man, I could have done this different, or I would have done that, or I'd have tried this, or I'd have moved there. But you're right. At the end of the day, you wouldn't have ended up where you are, and you have to be very grateful for those things that you have. Yep. P.S. I do love my kids. Maybe. All right. So now,
I guess they're all right.
they're cool. Man, I'll tell you what, that newborn would quit crying. Is there any homeopathic ways to make my 4-month-old not hungry all the time so that her mom and I can sleep?
I don't think so.
Okay. I got to the whiskey's not working.
But I can tell you, as you get older, it becomes easier. You start sleeping less, and then it works out great. Yeah. So that's the reason you have your grandparents. Yeah.
Your grandma and grandpa, right. Come on over and take them. I had a job once where I remember a guy told me I was doing mornings in radio, and we had to get there at like 4:30 in the morning, and then you worked all day basically. And the guy that worked with me said, Chris, you will never not be tired. You will just get used to always being tired. And I was like, okay. And then when we started having kids years later, my mind always goes back to that. And I go, I think you just get used to being tired. As sooner you give in and just say, you know what, it's all worth it. It honestly is worth losing sleep to spend time with them or get up early, where you have to run off to work and the little ones you don't see. They do make it worth it. But my mind always goes back to that. All right, if you visit facebook.com/Felt Recoil Show, we'll have a rundown for you there already. The gun is the 1022. The book is My Side of the Mountain. The movie is Groundhog Day. The album by the group Home Free is called Country Evolution. And the advice is do nothing different. Learn to enjoy where you are. Basically, I think, did I summarize that somewhat well? Okay. All right, so let's go back. Tom Weathers is with us from TrailblazerSurvival.com. And we're just going to pepper you with a bunch of questions here because I'm not overestimating how excited I am you're here and grateful that you're willing to join us. First of all, are you aware of the show Alone on the History Channel? Do you get asked about this a lot?
Yes, I am very much familiar with it.
Okay. Your demeanor suggests maybe, because that's my question, is how realistic is that? Do you feel like those people are actually out there surviving? Is that something you would recommend people go out and try if they want to test their abilities?
Yes, I would recommend that you do it, but just like they have someone that checks on them,
mm-hmm.
you need someone to check on you. Even I, like this coming October, I'm going to go out October, November, and December myself, and I'll be out there alone. But I have Joshua Hamlin coming in and checking on me.
You're going out for all 3 months or for a time? Because that is a great way to not deal with relatives on the holidays. I have to tell you, I'm already happy about this.
The deal was that when I talked to Joshua Hamlin, he had to get me home by December 24th.
Fine.
So, but the first 30 days really is just, I'm going to go through his training. So he's just going to run me through his stuff, and then he's going to just set me loose in his part of, I think it's the Mark Twain National Forest.
Oh, really?
So his property backs up to that, and so he'll keep an eye on me. So and that's the same thing I would say anyone that wants to try this out. That's fine. Go try it out.
Just make sure you have some supervision.
Back. Someone told me once a guy went to Alaska, had a trip planned out. Great, but he forgot to plan getting back home and he died.
Yeah.
Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but that's the case. You don't want to go out there without someone knowing where you are and able to check on you if you're trying to do it in that kind of situation.
I should probably explain, if you're not familiar with Alone, as Tom's telling you, on Alone, they take 10, so they narrow it down to 10 contestants. They used to be on Vancouver Island right off the coast of Washington State. They're now in Patagonia. And this season, I haven't watched them all. I'm catching up on Apple TV, but it's been pretty intriguing. Not quite as good as the other ones, but here's the point. 10 people, they get dropped in a remote location miles apart from each other, so they have no interaction, but they have communication devices, basically a satellite phone, and they just press a button at any time, and within a half hour, I think, the medics arrive and they bring food and water and whatever these people need. It happens every season. I can't remember in the first one, but at least the last 2 seasons, someone has cut themselves so bad while chopping firewood that they've gone home because they can't stop the bleeding. Other people usually, and Tom, I'd like to get your take on this. If I go to TrailblazerSurvival.com and I sign up for the Bug Out Bootcamp for March 3rd and 5th, 3rd through 5th, how much mental preparation do you advise people do for being out and alone?
Well, the first week is most difficult. Okay, at least when I go out, the first week is always the most difficult. I start missing wife and children, but after that, I'm usually in a place where I can tolerate it, I guess you would say, because you're always wanting to be with people. We're just built that way.
Yeah.
So, that's going to be your biggest challenge while you're out alone, is fighting the urge to give up, to go back home and be with your wife and your child. You're going to say, I'm missing out on this. And you give up. Nicole from last season, I think it was, on a lone show. That's the reason she gave up.
Yeah, she was the one that like basically had like the whole pond where she was just catching fish left and right. She was crazy, by the way. She was talking to the bears. She would see. Do you remember that? She would see bears. Be like, "Hey, bear!" I'm like, "You." And do you remember that she went down the trail that time to see where the bear went? I said, "You've got to be out of your ever loving." Is that a good idea? Is it as stupid as I felt like it was?
Well, Nicole is a friend of mine.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. She seems like a very nice woman, but that seemed really dumb.
And but she's been in places like Africa and
Okay.
so forth, and has dealt with much more dangerous animals. I would
Gotcha.
say. Now, would I go in a direction? Probably not.
Yeah.
But
It is a perspective issue, right? Because Chris Vermillion, overweight, sitting at home, eating Cheetos, watching it, and going, "I wouldn't chase a bear." Well, that's a lot different than a seasoned veteran who knows what they're doing out there might say. Because I have heard before, and maybe she made this point, that sometimes you do have to scare them away. You have to show them that you have territory. Is that right?
well, black bears are usually they are scared of humans. Every time I've come across a black bear, they've run.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The only situation, I think there were 5 boys up in this area that came across a black bear, but instead of standing their ground, beefing up themselves, making themselves look larger and yelling at the bear, they just scattered. Well, now you got the bear's instinct to go after prey, and one of the boys died, I believe what it said. But had they stayed together, that situation, the bear would have been intimidated by 5 boys sitting there yelling at it. So it's just, you come up on a black bear, don't run. Just
So since we're talking about things that Chris is scared of, namely bears, serious question: what do you fear when you're out there by yourself?
If I'm in an area with large cats, that's my biggest fear, because they will come up from behind and get you. So you have to worry about that.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I have been out there and saw a mountain lion, turned around and saw one behind me, probably, I don't know, about 20 to 25 feet away. Now when it saw me, we saw each other, it turned and took off. But
is
that I never even heard it get up to that close. So that really
is that something where you can sort of posture and scare it away, kind of like a bear, or does that not work with cats?
In that situation, it did, because I turned around and yelled at it, and then it took off. But I'm no expert on big cats. I have more experience with bears than I do big cats. I've only had one encounter ever with a mountain lion. So
Where were you at when that happened?
I was up near in the Rockies, near Colorado Springs.
Oh, okay.
So
when I'm over at Table Rock, no worries.
You're gonna be okay.
When I pull my car up and throw my tent out by the lake on that gravel pit, am I gonna be all right?
yeah, I've had people tell me that they think there's one out there, but I don't believe it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I really don't believe it.
I've hiked Table Rock a few times. I think the worst I've ever seen. That shouldn't have scared. I shouldn't. Why am I sharing this story? We ran into a big old rat snake once, and it about blew my. But it had to have been. It felt like it was 6 feet long. But I was with my nephew, and he's crazy anyway. He's the kid that'll run out and get on top of a precipice and wave at you and take my picture. I'm like, Kyle, get down. You're gonna die. So I'm all nerved up to the brim anyway, and then here came this big old black snake just right across the trail. Scared the bejesus out of me. So I can't imagine Chris Vermillion running across a big cat in the wild. I don't think that would go well for me. Do you get? When I go out, I tend to have like what I would call the first night heebie-jeebies. For a guy like you, are you over that? Like, I need a night to get accustomed to all the sounds, because I lay awake and I go, "There's a bear. Oh, there's a bear. Oh, that's definitely a bear breathing. That's a bear." I do that almost all night long. I can't sleep my first night out. As a guy like you kind of so accustomed to it now, or?
Well, I grew up in the around here, towards past Marietta, over in the Echo Valley area. So I guess to to me, I'm used to nature sounds.
Right.
Used to all the little noises coming around. But I understand. I've gone out with friends tenting, and they heard some crinkling in the leaves and thinking it was a bear, and I was like, yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
So I get up, it's a possum. Nothing to worry about. But yeah, I personally, I just don't. I don't have that problem.
Yeah.
So
let's. We probably should have done this at the beginning, but I want to talk a little bit about how you got to where you are. I read your bio on your website.
Okay.
I'm fascinated. I'm tempted to ask a lot of personal questions, so we do give everybody a I'm over it opportunity. So if I get too in your business, just say, Chris, I'm over it, and I'll move on. So from your website, Thomas Weathers, the owner of Trailblazer Survival School, trailblazersurvival.com, was raised as a survivalist in the mountainous areas of Cleveland, South Carolina. His father and grandfather taught him skills they learned from his great-grandfather, who was a woodsman from Tennessee. And it says here, most of your childhood, you lived in places with no electricity or running water.
Yeah.
Give us an overview of that. What's it like coming up like that?
Well, I didn't know any difference when I was growing up. I just thought that was the way it was.
Sure.
But
Kind of like me and not knowing my mom.
I don't know about that.
Oh, here we go.
But you just get up. You don't have a bathroom, so you go out in the woods. And
Really?
so that's what
It's
we
just
did.
the way it is.
Right. So there was no difference. We basically went down to the river to get our water. It was just a way of life, I guess. So,
How long? How long did you do that?
well, probably until I was thinking about it. I was through the 6th grade, so I was
About
12 years old.
Yeah.
So in the 7th grade, I actually moved here into the Greenville area, and then my life changed.
That's amazing. That's actually very similar, and I'm not joking when I tell you this. My wife had a very similar upbringing in Traverse City, Michigan. They literally lived in the woods, and they graduated from a tent to a pop-up camper, but that was all she knew until she was right at 12 years old, and then she came here in Greenville to live with relatives and kind of has been self-sufficient her whole life. So that's interesting. Yeah, I'm not going to give her parents any, like, oh, they were doing it to teach her a lesson type thing. But it's fascinating to me, that perspective, because I think we take so many small luxuries for granted, like electricity, the fact that we can get up and turn a light on and see things. You didn't have that growing up.
No. We used fire for a lot of things, oil lanterns. So
What was your recreation when you're living like that? What are you doing for fun outside of climbing a tree 100 feet in the air? And
well, I actually did climb a lot of trees.
Yeah.
And I can remember, like 5 years old, climbing trees up 50 feet. We played in the dirt, did a lot of fishing.
you just survived. Like you're basically surviving. Your life
Right.
is built around find food, and when you find the food, then you can go have your fun. Was it kind of like, was it day to day
Well, I
on eating
wasn't-
with you guys?
Yeah,
Or?
no, it wasn't day-to-day eating. My father did do construction work.
Okay.
So he would work a construction job. He was a laborer, so there's no huge amount of money coming in.
Right.
So we would supplement what we ate with, like one of the things, we ate possum. Now we didn't just grab them off the road and eat them. We had a cage we'd put them in. My mom would make cornbread and feed them on cornbread for about 30 days, and then we would.
So what's that like? Because I've heard the uglier the animal, the better the meat. So that must be absolutely divine.
The way my mom, fed it and everything, it would always get pretty fat. So
Yeah.
it had a kind of like almost like a bacon taste to it.
Really?
Yeah.
I can get down with that. Okay. So you complete high school, you join the Air Force,
Right.
right? How long were you in the Air Force?
Well, I was in basically about 20 years.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I got an early out. Basically, what I did was done away with because I did ground directed bombing and radar bomb scoring. We were auto trackers.
Wait, all right. For a guy like me that doesn't know any of that, what exactly are you doing? Are you literally like directing bombs, as it sounds like?
Yeah, mostly from B-52, sometimes from F-111s.
What have I done with my life? Can we just pause for a
Apparently
second
not a whole
and
lot.
let me go decide what I've wasted 36 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, anyway, GPS came along. They didn't really need us anymore, so most of us got early outs. So
do you retire with full benefits at that point?
yeah,
if they give you an early out?
if I give you an early out, you get to get out with full benefits.
Were you happy at that point?
Full benefits being normal 20 years, which is normal half pay.
Gotcha. Was it a relief, or were you like, man, I wish I could have done 5 more? It was like, great, see you guys later.
No, I was planning on getting out at 20 anyway.
Yeah, okay.
35 years old.
Might as well, right?
Might as well, yeah.
So, part company and go back. When you join the military after you grow up as a survivalist, is there a point where you're in there and they're trying to teach you something? You're like, yeah, no, guys, hold on. Wait a second. Eat this, not that.
No, I'm always open to everybody's suggestions. And it's much easier in the military because they're providing. When I first went in, we had K rations. Eventually, that went to MREs.
Okay.
And,
yeah.
So, basically, they provided the food we need. I really didn't have to look for food. So,
you hold a master's in, let's see here, I'm sorry. Business administration. There it is. I see it now. Thank you. You earned a bachelor's and then a master's in business and developed an entrepreneurial spirit. Here's where I'm curious, and again, this is where you get to say it. Don't bother me with that. But it says you've successfully owned and operated several businesses, including one that has established a multi-million-dollar revenue stream. Is that a company that we would know? Is that something still in the works today?
Yeah, it's Park Place Children's Center.
Really?
Oh, no.
Right up the street.
No, well, Batesville Road in Five Forks.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Park Place. I'm gonna have to find out where my sister-in-law works. She works somewhere like that. I don't even know what it is. Okay, so how did you get into that? I mean, it's a master's in business, and then you all started a developmental center for children.
Yeah, well, when I got out of the Air Force, still had plenty of time, so I needed a job.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Cenex Corporation, went to work for them. Pretty good with math, since I can, calculate where a bomb comes out of the plane and where it's going to hit within 50 feet on the ground. So I needed to put...
Not the man to make mad at you right there.
So I could put those math skills to use. So I went to work for the credit department. Then I left them and went to work for Adidas's credit department. And while I was at Adidas, my wife, who went in with a bunch of people and founded Palmetto Prep. They founded that school, and it kind of broke apart, and she wanted to do her own school. And being that I was in credit anyway, I basically knew how the whole credit thing worked.
Right.
So in 2008, 2009, when the economy was plunging, I used my contacts and my knowledge to basically get a $4 million loan and put Park Place Children's Center on the map.
Holy moly.
Very cool.
And it's still up and running, in case you don't know. Are you still involved in that, or did you sell it off? Is your wife involved?
My wife makes me handle all the financial stuff.
Oh, really? No kidding.
Our tax, we just finished our taxes, and they're like 300 pages. So
God bless you.
It's a nightmare. So anytime there's any kind of financial stuff, I handle it. Otherwise,
Sure.
My wife runs the day-to-day operations.
That's amazing. That's a very small world. That's very cool. I don't know how you keep your blood pressure down, because it is tax season. I'm getting our W-2s in the mail. And I use TurboTax. I get to just punch it all in and I'm done. But I'm furious. By the time I'm done with taxes, I've cursed everybody and their brother on the up and down, every way I know.
It's Cinepro.
Yeah. Keep that blood pressure low. You own a pizza restaurant still?
No.
You had one for a while?
I did that for a while. And it just was not... wasn't the lifestyle that I wanted, because
Yeah.
I had to be there like 24/7.
You're married to that.
Yep.
It is a marriage. I that was my first job, and my continual job for a long time was working at a pizza restaurant, and no thanks.
Yep.
No thanks.
Yep. I said no more restaurants.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you fulfill every role in the pizza joint? Were you making pizzas? Were you delivering them when they needed to be?
Yep. Anything and everything that needed to be done.
Unreal.
I did it.
Yeah. How long were you in that business?
I think about 2 years.
Oh, really?
And then I sold the business to someone,
Okay.
and I don't think they made it a year. So
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I hear you. Bad memories there. I hated working. I didn't hate working in the pizza joint. I'll tell you this. So in my current job, I deal with people on a daily basis, and 90% of the time you love it, but 10% when you deal with people, they're selfish. They don't
Right.
like you. They want to be right about something. They don't care what it is. They're going to be right about it. Hey, is this 303 British? Is that loaded with the Tannerite Primer K5? And you're like, what'd you just say? Oh, you don't even know, do you? No, I don't. Did you read this in a forum? Yeah, man. It was
Obviously
on,
you didn't.
Yeah, it was on relegatedfirearms.net yesterday. How did you miss it? Sorry, buddy. So I got to where I knew, looking at it, if I was going to deal with people, the last thing I was going to do was deal with their food, because I did that a lot in my life. From my first job, I was 15, and I think I remember I would have been 22 when I took my first full-time radio job, and was so happy to quit delivering pizzas and making sub sandwiches and just make $23,000 a year to, do a 6-hour radio show every day. And that was glorious. And I remember saying to myself, whatever you do, never, ever, ever go back to having to deal with people and their food. I was just so miserable because people they're just so selfish about their food. It's like, shut up and eat it. I don't care if it's what you ordered. Not really. All right. Tom Weathers is with us from Trailblazersurvival.com. And before we wrap up with you, I want to touch on that if you visit Trailblazersurvival.com, there's a bug out boot camp coming up March 3rd through the 5th. It's in Union, South Carolina, which I think it's safe to say it's basically between where we sit right now and Charlotte, in a sense. So if you're in any of that vicinity, this will not be hard for you to make. And right now, you can enter promo code FELTRECOIL at checkout, and you'll get $100 off at trailblazersurvival.com. So walk us through what a bug out boot camp is. What are we going to learn in that class?
All right. Well, first thing you're going to learn is SEER, which is survival, escape, resistance, and evasion. I think I kind of got the 2 E's backwards. But
No, you're all right. I'm with you. Survival, escape, resistance, and evasion.
Right.
And so we're talking bug out. What's the scenario here for a bug out? How do you paint that picture to me? EMP attack, or just any sort of calamity on a local scale?
It could be just about anything. We have a nuclear station or power plant
in Oconee?
In Oconee.
Yes, sir.
So if something was to happen, basically from the one in Japan that went
Fukushima.
Bad. Yep.
Yeah.
Basically anything within a 50-mile radius is pretty much, you can't be around it. So we're in that circle. So you're going to have to go somewhere.
Yeah.
So basically learn to have a 72-hour bag ready, which is taught in the class, what you should have in that class. We actually go and, what you should have for 72 hours, what you should have for 6 months, what you should have for a year, what you should have for 2 years, and then what you should do to be self-sufficient.
Are you a proponent of sheltering? If you had the option, would a guy like you shelter in place or get on the move?
Well, from this area, I would definitely move if there was some type of attack or nuclear or something like that.
Okay.
I would probably move towards the Tennessee area, because that would be the best path to get away from other nuclear plants and so forth. For us, the Greenville, Tennessee area would probably be the best area to be in.
If you're not familiar, by the way, the Oconee County Nuclear Plant, basically think Clemson. And in that vicinity, there's a nuclear power station that is heavily guarded. You're not allowed on the property, et cetera, et cetera. In fact, when I mentioned getting my first radio job, it was with a local station called B93.7. And we used to have to do dry runs for warning of a problem at the nuclear plant, and nobody ever cared, which always terrified me. But I used to make the joke, you guys really think I'm going to sit here and read this, or I'm going to call every family member I have? Honestly, like, I'll probably be like, hey, you guys should get out, but I will be calling family at the same time. So that's what Tom's talking about, is we would have to kind of go, I guess, northwest, in a sense, you're saying, to get out of any.
Right.
Is there something in Georgia? Is there something in northeast Georgia that would affect us? Or get close that you know of?
There's a map that you can find on the internet that shows you where all the nuclear plants are.
Oh.
So if you're trying to evade them, you're going to want to get out of the way the wind would carry the fallout. And you if you're in this area, you know our pattern. It's basically our wind is coming from the northwest, northwest, and moving east. Okay. So we're going to want to get to the other side of it as quickly as possible. So
yeah, going northwest would take us right out of that path. You're kind of going into the headwind, but it's establishing a further distance between you and the junk in the air.
Right. So we're going to head probably almost north, heading up towards North Carolina, towards Asheville, and then on into Tennessee, in that area.
So in the Bug Out Bootcamp, we're going to talk about a 72-hour bag, what should go in it, other things of that nature. What's next on the rundown?
Well, that covers our emergency preparedness. We go into camouflage, how to camouflage your area. What's the difference between cover and camouflage?
That's interesting. I wouldn't have thought about that. Covers and shelter from the elements is one thing, and then camouflaging that is another?
Well, cover is something that would absorb an attack, or say you've been fired at by a 22 or 9mm, 45, whatever. It would not only camouflage you, but it would also take a bullet for you. So camouflage, you don't have any protection other than being hidden.
Gotcha.
So we go over that.
It's very similar in the firearms community. We talk about cover versus concealment. There's a difference between having cover in a firefight and being concealed, and you want both in an ideal situation. You'd like to have cover that is concealing you, but it's not always the same thing.
Right. So that's camouflage and concealment, basically the same thing.
Okay.
So we go over how to camouflage, and because if you over camouflage, that's as big a mistake as not doing enough. Digging and leaving a little bit of dirt out front, basically shows exactly where you're at. So how to cover your tracks, basically.
Okay.
We go into navigation.
Very cool.
Yeah, and wilderness first aid.
Okay, what's different on a wilderness first aid versus, if I've taken a basic couple of first aid classes, which I have. I know Patrick's done more extensive first aid training than I have, but what is there a difference? I mean, I'm assuming that sanitation is a much higher concern when you're out in the wilderness. You got to treat it and keep it cleaner, quicker than you would otherwise.
Well, a lot of times you don't have access to the same materials as you would while you're
fair enough. Yeah.
Here, I can run down the road and grab a first aid kit.
Mm-hmm.
When you're out in the wilderness, you're not going to have a stretcher or a backboard to put someone on. So what are you going to use? So we go over into how to improvise. And just like Band-Aids, there's ways to improvise Band-Aids. Most people don't know that a young pine sapling, the bark can be cut from it, and that bark can cover the wound, and the sap from the pine tree is antibacterial, so it will help you help kill
nature's
anything
Band-Aid
that might cause an infection on you.
So it's almost like nature's version of Neosporin on a Band-Aid, it sounds like, in a sense, right? In a very loose sense, I'm sure, but
and there's other plants that we'll cover, like plantain, and what the benefits, medicinal benefits and for that.
Are you does it cover it all, like edibles in the wild, or do you go over, or is that a different?
Not the bug out class.
Yeah.
Our essentials starts into edibles.
Okay.
Then we actually cover more in our applied course, and then our advanced course basically has plant walks where we go over roughly 20 plants that are must know in order to survive in the wilderness. But just eating plants, you can't survive. A lot of people think you can go out and just survive on plants. It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
Maybe if you can find enough berries and nuts, but odds are you're going to have to. You can't be a vegetarian.
Yeah.
You're going to have to
You gotta hunt.
find meat.
Yeah.
And that's your full-time job once you're out surviving.
You just made a lot of hippies very, very angry. I just want to say it. Felt
Sorry.
Recoil totally agrees with what Tom had to say there.
Just find tofu trees out there.
It's a
Go to town.
plant, yeah. So if I'm reading this right, it's March 3rd through the 5th, and is this a 8 to 5 ordeal each day, or is this an overnight deal for 3 days?
It's 8 to 5. You're welcome to stay overnight at the camp. We have primitive shelters that you can use, or you can set up a tent.
Mm-hmm. You have a fishing pond there, is that right? Did I read that right?
We do have a pond, and it has a giant boat on it that you can borrow. And if you want to bring some rods, throw.
I imagine Pat.
Some catfish. I don't know anything else is in there.
I imagine Patrick out in the middle in the John boat. Tom, I'm stuck. Tom, come get me. I will tell you this, and I'm not blowing smoke at you. Who was here with us when we read this? I said last week. It was John and Chris. We had our buddy John and Chris were here. They were kind of a dual guests last week, and I'd mentioned that you were coming. I said, you guys, make sure you check next week out, because the gentleman from Trailblazer Survival School is going to be here. It's going to be really good content, going to be a lot of fun. And I was reading your website, and I read where you offer people you can camp on site and get up and fish and have your campfire at night, and everybody in the room went, this sounds awesome. Like, it's like a dream vacation in a sense, and you're going to learn something at the same time. I don't know how you beat that, especially for the price. I mean, what is so if they use the Felt Recoil code at trailblazersurvival.com, sign up for the class, is it
$199 for the 3 days.
Okay.
Normally, the normal price on it, if it's no discounts, is $299
normally, but right now you'll do it for $199 for him. It's a nice guide. Okay, the last thing, did we cover everything in the bug out class? Is there anything I missed that you want to hit on?
Well, we cover food and supply preps, smokeless fire, and stealth travel.
What do I need to bring to the class? What's expected of me to show up with on day one?
Basically, I would say what we have on our website. We have a page called Resources.
Okay.
So go to that site. It'll tell you what you should bring, but mostly bring some kind of sleep system.
Okay.
Bring a landscape saw, like a Silky maybe, or a Corona, 10 to 14 inch foldable saw.
Okay.
And then some paracord. So, and truthfully, you should always have that with you anyway. So
that's our next question, which is great lead in. Okay, so trailblazersurvival.com, click the resources tab. It's at the top right, just in between summer camps and contact. That'll tell you everything you need to have to be ready for the Bug Out Bootcamp coming up March 3rd through the 5th. $100 off with coupon code Felt Recoil. Last thing we do every week, Tom, is we ask what a guy like you carries with him every day. Tom Weathers gets up, leaves the house. What's on his person when he walks out the door?
What's on my person? Well, I always have a pocket knife with me. I carry in my billfold a way to start a fire. I've got a magnifying glass. I have a ferro rod on me. I have a little gadget that gives me a few little tools in my wallet where I can pull it out, and it's got different little tools, screwdrivers and stuff like that.
A little credit card style?
You're right.
Okay.
And that way I can make a fish hook. So with those few things, if I found myself out, I'd have everything I needed to survive. So
I just want to point out, this is the episode of Felt Recoil where you hung out with Chris, who would die first, and Tom, who would make it all the way through. So just bear that in mind. Trailblazersurvival.com. Sign up for the Bug Out Bootcamp. A few spaces left. If you sign up now and use Felt Recoil coupon code, you'll get $100 off. Trailblazersurvival.com. Tom, can't thank you enough, man. Really, really appreciate you hanging out.
I appreciate you having me. It's been great.
Hope we weren't too obnoxious. Tend to be. All right, Facebook.com, Felt Recoil Show for more information. And please visit teamgleason.org and learn how to fight ALS all around the world. We'll see you next time